Well, I'm in a little slice of paradise here. I'm about 20 minutes drive from home and about a 2-hour walk from where I park my car. And it's an overcast day. The weather's overcast, but it's still pretty hot. It's about 26 degrees Celsius. And I'm filming this in the middle of May. We're having what we call an Indian summer. It should be pretty much winter for us here in the southern hemisphere, but so far we've had very little rain and it's still pretty warm. So that's going to need a change pretty quickly. Okay, I'm going to be trying out the Trangia Mini. So I haven't used this before. I thought this would be a good opportunity to try it out, see what it's capable of doing. And I'm going to have a go at making some sort of a chicken casserole. Alright, so this was just something I've thrown together from what we had at home. I meant to bring along some red lentils and also a small tin of corn, but I completely forgot, so ingredients should be limited. Oh yeah, and I think I slipped in a stock cube as well into one of those packages. So, a fair bit of the prep's already done. A little bit of chopping to do, but not too much. Okay, ground's pretty moist, but still it's got to be wary of starting a fire. So I think what I might do is just use that foil I've wrapped the chicken in just to make a bit of a ground sheet, if you like, before I set up the stove. And this is going to be my first use of the Trangia Mini. So I've given it a wash just to get the manufacturing chemicals off. I've just got a cloth in there, plastic protection, the pan holder, the stove. What else did I put in here? Just some washing up equipment. So yeah, look, I thought it was a really good size. Ideal, I think, for one person. At a squeeze you could probably feed two with this setup. As far as the price goes, look, half the purchase price is what you'd pay just for the stove. So twice what you'd pay for a stove. You get the stove, you get the holder, fry pan, pot and tongs. So I think it's pretty good value. And just a little tip I picked up somewhere just about fuel bottle. If it's a day walk and you've got to carry all your stuff, you don't necessarily want a big fuel bottle. So this is a repurposed small sized Listerine mouthwash bottle. It's pretty strong actually once you adapt it for use. And the other thing about it is the seal on it's excellent, and you actually get a childproof lock on this so your kids can't start drinking your methylated spirits. Yeah, we're all teenagers once, don't say you've never done it. Okay, so I've got chicken to cook, I've got potatoes to cook up, and I've got what will be a bit of a stock to condense down. So I suspect I'm going to need a few loads of fuel in the stove. So I'm starting with a full bottle. I just want to see how much fuel out of that bottle it takes to fully fill the stove. Okay, here we go. Bit of spillage. Okay, so I'd say that's about a third of the bottle fills the stove. So look, I'll definitely get lunch out of it, I'm sure. I may not get a coffee afterwards. We'll see how we go. And I did bring along a windshield, but there's no wind at all, so I'm not sure that I'm gonna need it at this stage. Okay, let's get this stove lit. Oh, I heard the pop. Yep, that's lit. Okay, I'm just going to give it a few minutes just to start to bloom. Well, it's come along pretty quick. I might even get the fry pan going. And somewhere I've got oil. I know I've got oil. Here we go. That should do. Alright, I'll just give that a minute just to heat. Alright, I reckon it's time to get the onions on. That heated up really quick. Size-wise there, that's half a medium-sized onion diced, and it's one small carrot diced, just to give you an idea of the size. It's pretty steady. There's some knocking there. Yeah, look, I've got to be careful because I am just dislodging that pan and it's coming down, so a little bit of caution. Oh, those onions, they smell good. Yeah, okay, so the pot has a ridge here so that the stove holder will lock into the ridge, but there's nothing similar on the actual fry pan, so you've got to be a little bit careful with the fry pan. If I wasn't operating the camera, I could be using the pot holder just for a bit of stability. In fact, I might have to do that, so I'll switch off. Yeah, look, first impressions, I think I estimated the quantities spot on. One small carrot and half an onion is pretty much filling the entire pan. I don't think you can get much more in there and have easy, efficient stirring or cooking. And look, I know it's its first use, but that non-stick surface is excellent. No faults there at all. I just thought I'd capture this. The flame is it's pretty big, so you want to be mindful of that if you're not using a windshield. In hindsight, I probably should have used a windshield just as an added safety factor. Okay, there we go, the windshield is up, but that's kind of created a little bit of a problem. It's not so easy to get in and hold the pan and stir it now with that windshield up, so I think I'm probably going to have to leave a gap to get in. That's smelling good. Okay, my onions are getting translucent. I'm just starting to get a few burn spots on the carrot, a little bit of caramelisation, so I reckon they're done. Time for the chicken. Okay, I went a bit gung-ho there and just chucked all the chicken in. And there might be a little bit too much just for comfortable turning. I'll see how we go. Okay, that was probably one large chicken breast, I would say. Chopped up, maybe slightly more than that. Certainly not too breast. Alright, it may well be me and my lack of experience with this, but I would suggest you don't do that much meat in one sitting. I've got to use the tongs here just to get it off and turn the chicken. And there's a little bit of give on them. I wasn't 100% confident with their strength, and I was a bit worried about dropping everything and not having lunch. So in future, maybe do 2 batches of chicken. And the other thing as well is I have not put the temperature controller on there. It's fully bloomed and probably a little bit too hot. I'm starting to overcook things a little bit. Okay, that chicken's starting to brown up quite nicely, shouldn't be too long. Okay, I've got the chicken in the pan with the carrots and the onions. I've just put a little bit of water on the bottom just to try and stop it from burning, because I've got a little bit of food prep to do, a bit of chopping. I was hoping I could get that done while I was browning the onions and carrots and the chicken, but I couldn't. I had to really give this my full attention, because it was a risk of burning. If you turn your back on this at full heat, I reckon it's going to burn pretty quickly. In fact, you can see there that the water's boiling already, and it's only probably been on there 20 seconds longer than the length of this clip. So there we are. Treat this with respect. And I've just roughly chopped the tomato, and I've added the tomato there, and I'm going to be shortly adding some celery and some potato. Okay, I've just added the potato and the celery, and look, it's a medium-sized tomato, it's 2 baby potatoes, it's 1 stick of celery, the chicken, and the pot's pretty much full. I'm just going to add some water there, enough to cover. I'll add a stock cube, I'm going to add a chilli and a clove of garlic, and then just let it simmer down. Okay, well that's the water added, so I've got my stock cube here. I'm going to have to do this two-handed, otherwise I'm going to get a lumpy stock cube. Okay, well that's the stock cube added. Let's see what it's like at stirring. It might be a bit tricky. It's a little bit wobbly, and this is pretty full, so stir it with caution is my advice. We got something there, a little bit of bush extra. It's all vitamin C. Alright, so the only thing that's going to be left is I'm going to put in a clove of garlic, I'm going to chop up a chilli, and I'm just going to add some seasoning. So I brought a range of seasoning. I'm thinking salt and pepper, probably some cayenne pepper, and probably some paprika. Hopefully that should do it. Look, I'm actually glad I forgot to bring the corn and the lentils, because it would have probably been too much. That's just the right size. Okay, so I've just roughly chopped the garlic and the chilli there. I'm not going to do any fine cuisine skills out here. It's a little bit too hard, so in it goes. And the seasoning. Okay, some salt. It's a pretty aggressive boil already, so I'm just going to get this seasoned, and I'm going to have to turn that. In fact, I'll do it now. I'll turn the flame down now. Look, I was a bit skeptical about these tongs, but that's a full pot, and it's actually got a pretty good grip on it. As long as you get your grip closer to the pot, it's pretty stable. Alright, back to the seasoning. Okay, you missed the seasoning. That was very much a two-hand job. So salt, pepper, lots of paprika, as much as I could get out of the shaker, and a touch of cayenne pepper. And I think I judged the setting on the heat controller ring perfectly, because I've now got it down to a nice simmering boil. So there we are. I'm just going to let that reduce down. I'll see how I go. If it is going to reduce too much, well, I've got the option of putting the fry pan as a lid, just to prevent evaporation. So now we wait, I suppose. I've got chicken's probably going to need 15-20 minutes, and the potatoes are probably going to need at least 20 minutes to cook. And hopefully I can get some of that chopped tomato to reduce right down and make a nice sauce. Okay, so just about an hour of waiting. Okay, I'm in a pretty cozy little nook here. I'm about 50 metres from a walk trail, and we've got a hill over here, and I'm sort of in the trough of that hill. Yeah, it's a pretty cozy little spot. Alright, so that's been bubbling away probably about 10 minutes. And I'm still on the first load of fuel. That's showing no signs of giving up at this stage. So it looks like I might get that coffee after all. Okay, I just gave it a stir. The tomatoes are starting to dissolve. That's a good sign. We're starting to thicken the sauce. So I reckon another 10 minutes at the most and we're going to be done. Big advantage here, I think, doing chicken, because if I tried a red meat, I think I'd probably have cooking times 4 times longer. So there we are, chicken for the win. Okay, well, I think that's been cooking about 15 minutes. The fuel load is still working, and we're getting a lot of liquid reduction. In fact, it's going to be ready pretty quick. I could call it ready now and call it more of a soup than a casserole, or I can reduce it down a little bit more. I think I might give it another 5 minutes. Well, quite literally, as soon as I turned the camera off after that last clip, the fuel ran out. So, revised my plans. I'm going to call that cooked. I'm just going to let that sit for about 10 minutes just to cool down, and then lunch. I've got to say, I'm feeling really hungry, so I'm looking forward to this. Okay, well, it's still a bit too hot to handle the saucepan. I did bring a plate along, but I think it's going to be easy just to eat this straight out of the pan. And I've just come up with a system for working out when the temperature is right. As soon as the flies start to hover around it and want to land on it, that's when I know it's going to be good to eat. Just thought I'd show you the tree I'm sitting next to. You might just see there's a whole lot of sap that's just dropped on the ground. And if you follow the tree up, you may not be able to see it with this lighting, but there's just a part of this tree where it's starting to weep or to ooze some sap. If I can get the focus right as well. I think that's some sort of a native wasp nest. If anybody knows what that is, please post below. It's been resting about 10 minutes now. It's still too hot to handle that saucepan, but I'm getting really hungry. I think I might just work out a way to eat it. Alright, I got my shemog on my knee like a nana rug, and I'm very carefully balancing the pot. Alright, let's have a look. Let's just try the stock. That's very good. It's quite spicy. Let's just see if that potato is cooked. It's almost like a minestrone soup, but minus the beans and added the chicken. That's actually really good. Alright, I've got some chili here. Let's just see how strong that is. Yeah, that's really good. Alright, see you when it's eaten. Alright, I'm about halfway through it now. This is delicious. really lifts your spirit. Just eating some tasty real food. I reckon it would have done well with some fresh mushrooms in it. Probably would have soaked up a bit of the moisture. Might have done well with lentils as well, but I think adding lentils would have added a fair bit to the cooking time. But I think I'll try that in the future. I might try this with a few additions. Alright, well, I'm going to keep eating. This is really tasty. Oh, that really was good. I finished everything. I pretty much licked the dish clean. That was delicious. And I got to say, I think this setup is a real winner. It's really good for something like a day walk out. I reserve my opinion there, I suppose, as to whether you would take it on a multiple night long hike, because you've got to carry all of the fuel. But that was really, really good. Just seems to make such a difference to eat fresh ingredients, fresh food, freshly cooked, compared to freeze-dried, dehydrated meals that never really satisfy you, in my opinion. They always leave you wanting something better. That was excellent. So, yep, I think this is going to be a setup. I'm just thinking about how I make my coffee, whether I wash up or whether I try and make a coffee in another way. I'll give it some thought and I'll get back to you. Okay, here's the plan for the coffee. I did happen to bring my canteen cup as well. I'm going to boil some water in that. Enough for the coffee, and hopefully I'll have a little bit of hot water left over just to do the dishes. Alright, that's not going to work because I can't get it to balance on the Trangia stove holder. No, I'm pretty sure there's no way I can get a balance on that. Oh well, plan B. Okay, fortunately I remembered to bring my stove. Alright. Okay. Alright, I'm a little bit dimensionally challenged there, but we got there. Okay, so cooking that whole stew, including frying up the chicken and the vegetables, took one full load of fuel in the burner. I've filled the burner here probably about 2/3 full, just to boil probably about a cup, slightly more than a cup of water. That should be enough for my coffee, and just to have a little bit of warm water to give everything a quick wash up. Alright, see you later. Okay, look, I forgot to time it, but there's some real heat coming off this, and we are very, very close to a boil. I don't think it's been on more than a couple of minutes. So, yeah, I'm happy with the boil speed. And we have a good rolling boil, so I suspect it's going to be way too hot to handle. Get out of the way. Okay, that stove hasn't really, looks like it's buckled a fair bit. That was a cheapy Chinese, so be warned if you're going to get one of those. Just want to show you, I've tried to put it out, but as you see, it's a bit persistent. And the flames were a bit more than that, probably about 20 seconds ago. So that's with the heat controller rather than the lid. I try not to use the lid to put the flame out because you run the risk of burning the seals. So let me just see. No, that's done it now. So all that seemed to be was the hole there was just allowing just a flame to come out. But as you see there, once I moved it, put it out straight away. Okay, so total fuel use, I don't know if you can see that. There's about a quarter of the methylated spirits left over. And in my fuel bottle, again, there's about a quarter of that left over. So I've used probably 2/3 of what's in this bottle. That was to cook the casserole and to boil enough water for a coffee and to be able to do some washing up afterwards. So that hopefully gives you some idea about the fuel use. The day, just for weather conditions, it's about 26 degrees Celsius and there is no wind whatsoever. So bear that in mind in your calculations. Alrighty, she is all washed up and packed away, and even after its first use, it's starting to get quite a nice patina to it. So, look, I think that's an excellent setup. Yeah, I'm really, really impressed with what you can do, and just in terms of its size and its functionality. I've got a little bit of experience with meth stoves and Trangia gear, so I kind of know what to expect, but if you've not tried this system before, just be warned. You're dealing with liquid fuel that's highly flammable, that can be spilt before you know what's happening. It's really something you've got to have your focus on it. You really can't afford to take your eyes off it, especially in the sort of environment I am. It's pretty dry. It wouldn't take much for this to sort of light up. So there you go. Thanks for watching. You take it easy. Just on the walk home and on the subject of bushfires, you'll see there's a fire just over there, probably about 5 kilometres away from here, I would say. But it's a really still day. I can't even smell the smoke from here. So there you are. Be mindful of the fire risk. I didn't like that, by the way. That was not me.